fundamental rights are innate rights. Sometimes we call those rights natural rights given to us by God. And these rights need to be protected, particularly as humans. We don't live in a zoo, and we don't live in a banana republic. Section 35 specifically talks about our right to personal liberty. Now, this right, as enshrined in Section 35, is also provided for in Article 6 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. What it simply means is that you have a right to personal liberty. Nobody has the right to deprive you of your freedom to move around Nigeria, to move around your house. Nobody has a right to confine you to a particular space. The exceptions are listed in Section 35, Sub 1, Paragraph A to F. You would lose your right to personal liberty in the execution of a court sentence. So, assuming you have faced a criminal trial and the court has found you guilty, you would lose your right to personal liberty. Then, by reason of your failure to comply with the order of court, you might also lose your right to personal liberty. For the purpose of bringing a party before a court, where a summons has been served on the party and the party failed to honor that summons willfully, the party will be bound, will be arrested, and forced to appear in court. And in the case of persons who are yet to attain the age of 18, for the purpose of their education and welfare, they could also lose their right to personal liberty. That is why parents can send their children to boarding school, where their right to freedom will be restricted within the four walls of their school compound. Again, in the case of suffering an infection or a contagious disease, so for example, there are people who have leprosy and they are confined to a particular area, they cannot complain that their right to liberty has been infringed on. We all remember what happened during the COVID season, where citizens were asked to stay at home. What the government simply did was that they deprived us of our rights, but they did it legally. Now, for the purpose of preventing unlawful entry of any person into Nigeria, assuming you are not a Nigerian and you are visiting Nigeria and you do not have a visa, you can also be detained and you'll be processed to be repatriated back to where you are coming from. So, having realized that as humans, we have rights given to us by God. Like I said before, these are natural rights. But sometimes these rights could be infringed on, and because these rights could be infringed on, we have a right to bring an action in court to enforce these rights. But for issues like this, I would want us to quickly look at Section 46, sub 1 of the Constitution. That section provides that you do not have to wait for your right to be trampled upon before you apply to court to enforce your right. Now, if for any reason you feel that your right is likely to be infringed upon, you have the right to approach a court. Section 46 sub 1 says, any person who alleges that any of the provisions of this chapter has been, is being, or likely, the operative word then is likely, to be contravened in any state in relation to him, may apply to a high court in that state for redress. So you do not have to wait, for example, for you to lose your right to personal liberty as provided for in Section 35 before you bring an action in court to enforce your right to personal liberty. If for any reason you suspect, you feel that your right is likely to be contravened or infringed on by the provisions of Section 46 sub 1, you can immediately cause an action in court for the enforcement of your fundamental right. Now, what do you stand to benefit when you bring an action in court for the enforcement of your fundamental right? Assuming your action succeeds, Section 35
Sub 6 provides that should your right to personal liberty be infringed on, either you have been unlawfully arrested or detained, you are entitled to compensation, monetary compensation. You'll be given money to at least assuage and make up for whatever damage you have suffered owing to the aggressive infringement on your rights. Thankfully, lately I'm doing a case now against the police where a party was arrested in place of her husband. Right now, that party's right to personal liberty has been infringed on. But the police are now saying that, oh yes, we acted within the confines of the law because a crime was alleged against that person. But the Supreme Court has said that mere allegation of a crime against a person does not justify the person's arrest and detention. That for an arrest to be justified, the allegations must be founded on reasonable grounds. So what we find now is that I have a quarrel with Mr. A over probably he's owing me money, and obviously maybe if I bring an action to recover my money in court, it might take time. Mr. A might even decide to I might get judgment at the lower court. Mr. A might decide to appeal to the highest court of the land, which will take years. So what people now do is that they now go to the police and security agencies and frame people up over unjustifiable allegations, get them arrested in a bid to recover their debts. Now, the courts have said these procedures are procedures not known to our law. Security agents have no right to arrest citizens over civil disputes. They are restricted to investigating crime and ensuring that crime is being nipped in the bud, not over civil disputes. So, assuming you have a civil dispute with somebody and the person now decides to use security agents to arrest you illegally, thereby infringing on your right to personal liberty as provided for in Section 35, do not forget that Section 35, subsection 6 has given you a right to be compensated jointly and severally. Both the security agents and whoever made that report will be made to cough out money that is meant to assuage whatever pain you have suffered. Conclusively, like we mentioned before, should you feel that your right to personal liberty has been contravened, do not hesitate to contact and consult your lawyer, who will ensure that a fundamental rights action is filed in court, and who would also pursue the case vigorously to ensure that you get damages.